Hey everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a quick recap each week of what's going on in space, and today we're going to be talking about the fourth week of April 2019. Our first item has to do with the problems that SpaceX has encountered with their Crew Dragon. If you didn't catch this news, the Crew Dragon had a problem with their launch abort system that resulted in major damage to the Crew Dragon that they were testing. The good news is that while they're working on the Crew Dragon launch abort system, it's not going to delay all their other activities. Falcon 9 launches with the Cargo Dragon are not impacted, and Falcon Heavy launches are not impacted. And there are launches of both types scheduled over the balance of the second quarter. So this is very good news that it won't delay those other items. The flip side of that story is what the impact is on commercial crew. Both Boeing and SpaceX have had problems with their launch abort systems, which are different than the launch abort systems used to be. In the past, these systems were mounted on the top of the capsule or even above the capsule on like a tower that pulled the capsule away from the rocket. These new designs are, some people call them push designs. The engines are low on the capsule and push the capsule away from the rocket that's malfunctioning. So while they're working on this, we're probably going to lose some schedule on commercial crew. So these issues that both Boeing and SpaceX are encountering could push commercial crew into next year. We'll have to see the exact timing, but this does not bode well for keeping to the current schedule. Interesting news from the universe. The universe is expanding faster than all the scientists thought, and they can't understand right now why it's expanding so fast. So there's a question of, will new physics be required to sort of account for this and try to explain it? Because the discrepancy is pretty large. It's not like it's a 1/10 of 1%. It's 10% different than anybody thought. So we'll have to see what the scientists can come up with to rationalize this problem. Some people think it's dark energy, but dark energy is not really very well understood. So your guess is as good as mine. Just as Western nations are following the SpaceX lead on reusable rockets, the Chinese are doing the same thing. Two Chinese startups are working hard to try to figure out reusable rocketry. And what they've been doing is they've built and flown pretty large-scale tech demonstrator flights. And by that I mean things that are 30 feet long, a weight of 8,000 pounds, that are reaching speeds in the testing of almost Mach 4, and they're reaching altitudes of like 85,000 feet. The reason for the statistics that I'm sharing with you is these are not small-scale, lighthearted efforts. These are quite serious efforts to try to figure out reusable rocket technology, which, just as it's given SpaceX such a leg up, would definitely help the Chinese space program if they can figure it out as well. As everyone knows, I guess, the White House and the National Space Council have put forth a goal of sending humans back to the moon by 2024. And NASA is making various adjustments to try to make this happen. One of them is they're changing their thinking a little bit on the lunar lander. They'd had a request for proposals out for sort of a partial lunar lander. They were looking for an ascent stage for somebody to come up with. What they're now talking about is an integrated lunar lander that has both the descent and ascent stage like in a package. So they've given the clue to industry this is what's going to happen. The formal call for this proposal is going to be like at the end of May. So that's going to be a month or so from now. But industry knows this is coming, and they're looking for an integrated lunar lander, which may be quite good for Blue Origin. We'll see about their upcoming announcement. The head of the Chinese Space Agency made some very interesting announcements recently. Among other things, he said they're planning to launch their space station in 2022. Which sounds like, oh, that's a long time in the future, 2022. It's only 3 years away. So China's gearing up to launch their space station. And in addition to that, they're also talking about doing a crewed lunar mission of their own to send their astronauts to the moon, or taikonauts if you prefer, to send them to the moon by around 2030. And they also said that they intend to start putting up a lunar base around 2030 as well. And like everybody else seems to be interested in the South Lunar Pole area, China's interested in that too. So this could be a little bit of a crowded landscape down there. NASA, as I mentioned before, is working on their plans for returning people to the moon by 2024. What they're talking about right now, although it's still a little bit early days, is using the Space Launch System. This would be the third flight of SLS. There would be first an unmanned test flight, then there would be a crewed test flight, and the third flight would carry this mission to the moon. So they'll use the big rocket, the SLS. They're also planning to have a small version of the Lunar Gateway, sort of the very minimum components to do what they need to do, and the lander that I mentioned earlier, that they'd like industry to come up with the lander concept. So they need these components, and they're going to need more money. Nobody is saying yet how much more money they're going to need, but the NASA administrator, Jim Bridenstine, has indicated that they're going to need substantially more money if we want to go to the moon in a hurry, which makes perfect sense. So that's it for Space Headlines, covering the 4th week of April 2019. Hope you enjoyed our show. Check back with us in a week or so, and we'll be going over the 1st week of May. Take care.